worth go there. So, Sylvia and Terry, I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your diversity in law program, and sort of how you got involved in it, and what kind of work do you do?
So this program that we run between two of us really started from like a conversation just around the lack of diversity within commercial law firms. Like both Terry and I work in the corporate sphere, and we're just very cognizant of the fact that like there is this stereotype of the legal profession in Ireland being very like South Dublin, private school, then straight into law in Trinity or ECD, and then straight into a top firm and staying there until you become partner. And I'm very conscious of the fact that I was the only Black person in my intake, and there was a definite like lack of diversity within our firm, and I doubt that's definitely something that Terry felt as well. So we just wanted to do just something small. Even I think it's one of those things that everyone can play their part. So we just wanted to start like our own little network to help Black students and Black professionals within the particular legal sector that we work in just feel like there is a network of people like them, that there are people out there that look like them, there are people for them to connect to, and just like if anyone needed a hand or anything, that there's always someone out there to reach out to.
Brilliant. And Terry, would the reasons be similar for yourself? Or?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing that Sylvia said, but I suppose for me, just from a personal point of view, I know the struggles that I went through when I was doing my applications for internships. So I just didn't want other minority students or other diverse students to be in that situation where they feel like they don't have anyone to support them, because it is the worst feeling in the world when you feel like you really want to get at a certain point, but you don't know how to get there. So I suppose that's one of the reasons that we set up the projects, just to assist people who need help and just giving back.
Brilliant. And what kind of work do you do with the program?
So we like currently are just mainly, obviously it's application times for summer internships and training contracts. So we're doing a lot of work with people that need assistance drafting them. Like I know for a fact that like neither of my parents went to university, and like if I gave my mom an application for a top law firm, my mom would be like, what on earth are you talking about? Like I have no idea what you're even, like, you know, so many people don't have the ability to be able to just give something to their parents or give something to like an older family member to just proofread. Also just even like provide insight into the industry. Like I know mainly we're both corporate law, like work in the corporate sphere, and there is a very much like this shroud of mystery about like what actually, if anyone actually knows what a trainee solicitor does, please tell me, because there's so much mystery about it that like I had no clue in secondary school like what solicitors actually do. So even just to provide that background, like I know for definitely from my sake that like when I was doing applications and even doing like FE1s and stuff, you don't really have a clue about what you're doing, and there's no like one-page document, okay, this is how to become a trainee solicitor and this is what trainee solicitors do. So we just definitely wanted to provide that for people outside that small little bubble that don't have access to that information, like because it's very pervasive, and it's more students that we talk to, the more we realize how pervasive the issue is of like if one of the members of your family doesn't do law, you are not going to have a clue as to what actually is going on out there in the real world. So we just wanted to provide that link for people that have that need that support. So for people that need help doing CVs, for people that need help doing applications, like we are currently running webinars aimed at BAME students in the hopes in conjunction with some of the corporate firms. I know McCann's, Cox's and Matheson have agreed to do them for us. So like that's an invaluable resource that like not everyone gets to have, and I kind of wish I had resources like that when I was in college, because it would save me a lot of I think I applied for a training contract. I think I did 2 rounds of milk rounds before I got something decent, and it's a lot of time. Like it is, like milk rounds is a full-time job. I do not pity any student doing them. I remember I think I did close to 15 applications one year, even though I don't know why, but I just did. And it's a commitment, like especially when you're doing like your regular studies as well of like societies or sports or like God forbid you have like a job outside. Like I don't know how people manage it, but yeah, that's pretty much what we're focused on.
Yeah. And
Anything, Terry?
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Jonathan, I didn't hear you there.
No, I said, do you have anything else to add, Terry?
No, that's just pretty much to add to what Sylvia said. I suppose the main thing really is just to help people with their application, because if your application is not great, then you can't land an interview. So I suppose that's where a lot of people fall. And it's simple things like not knowing how to answer the question, why do you want to work for this particular law firm? And if you don't have any friends, or if you don't have any relatives or anyone who works in that law firm, you're not going to have any idea how to answer that question. So I suppose that's where we come in as well, just putting people in touch. Obviously, we work at certain law firms and we know our friends from back who work in different law firms. So just putting people in touch, and that just goes back to what we are. We are a network of support. So yeah, just supporting people during the application. That's the most important thing, because what we do want to see at the end of the day is to see more diverse students working in the law firms.
Oh, we are aware that there's this idea that like if you are providing specific opportunities just for like Black and ethnic minority people, like it never wants to be come across as like favoritism, or but I think you have to take into account that like I know this is so real once you get out in like actual industry. There is definitely like a socio-economic divide within the law industry, and to pretend that that doesn't exist is like foolish. Like it's so obvious to everyone. Like I'm not going to pretend that I'm from like a super disadvantaged background. I just happen to know that like my ethnicity did make a little bit more puzzling, but I actually think what held me back for even more than my ethnicity was the fact that I wasn't from like a very like South Dublin. I didn't go to Gonzaga. Like I went to UCC, like and then went into a top firm, and I feel like that like it was more the socioeconomic issue became a bigger issue for me than the race thing. But like again, they all tie hand in hand. Like the fact of the matter is like people that are from different ethnic backgrounds do tend to be from particular socioeconomic backgrounds, and you can't address one without addressing the either, so like others. So I am conscious of the fact that no, I don't want it ever to look like favoritism, but this is the reality of the world we live in, and to ignore that is just kind of foolish. So
I think that's important as well, Sylvia, because I know a lot of people now, a lot of senior people, a lot of people in leadership, or a lot of people in the big companies are thinking, where is the fine line between promoting diversity or having all ethnic minorities work in their workplaces and giving the jobs to someone who deserves the job? But this is one thing that I feel people should really understand. We are not saying that give diverse people or minority people a job because they are a minority. We are saying that diverse people are just as equally capable as a non-diverse people. Sorry, as a non-diverse person. So they should be given an equal opportunity, not give them the job because of their difference. Because I wouldn't want to work in a place and know that the only reason that I'm working here is because of my diversity, is because I'm African, or it's because of my socioeconomic background. No one wants to feel that way, because then diversity and inclusion go hand in hand. If you're working in a place and you're thinking, I'm only here because I'm African, then you're not really, then the inclusion part is not going to fit in as well, because you won't feel like you belong in that place. So that's just one thing as well that we think is really important for people to know, for people in leadership to know, that it's not just about increasing the numbers of minorities in the workplace. It's just about recognizing the people who are equally as capable, who have the same potential as everyone else, and not passing them over because of their diversity.
Exactly. I think especially with the whole like Black Lives Matter issue recently, that it's become something that's definitely to the forefront of the minds of people that work in HR and in leadership and recruitment, and they are very aware of this. But again, like, this is one of those things that has to be quite led by Black people, if that makes sense. As in, like, it's very easy for like like a white partner in a top firm to be like, okay, I need to fill like this quota of like X amount of Black students, but like that's probably not going to be the best way to do it. I think it's very much more nuanced, and it is really about creating a sense of inclusion, that people feel recognized, that they feel supported enough to apply to top law firms, because we've held events and stuff in the past, and we've met lots of ethnic minority students from economic minority backgrounds, and they're so talented and they're all great, and they all, obviously if you get into law in Trinity or law in UCD, you're smart, you're well capable of becoming a solicitor in a top firm, but loads of them just don't apply because they don't feel welcome. And that's really, really heartbreaking, because like how the situation isn't going to, like, it's just a numbers game. Like, until we have the numbers of people making applications for top law firms, we're not going to see that many people become trainees or see that many people become associates, then become partners. So it's never going to get better if like we have all these fantastic students and they're all just jetting off to London, and London's crap, don't go to London, stay here. So we want to make sure that I feel like the London firms definitely run initiatives like this, and they're better at it than we are, but that might just be a numbers thing. And hopefully in the future, with more people applying for firms, more people willing to stay in Dublin, that just gets better over time. But yeah, like our goal is pretty much to provide like a network, and I hate the term safe space. It's so like I hate it. But it's not a safe space, but a space for Black and ethnic minority students. To feel welcome. Yeah.
I think as well, one of our goals, Jonathan, is just to be able to reach a position where in the future we can sit down with all the stakeholders from the various law firms, because I've heard from my friends who work for really big law firms, and it doesn't matter the size of the law firm, but I've heard that some of the partners in their law firm, when they are asked about diversity and the lack of diversity, questioned about the lack of diversity, they always say, well, they don't want to apply here. So that's almost like shifting the blame in a way. So I feel like I would love to have that conversation in the future where we are asking, what are you doing to make sure that they do apply? I think that's the better question, as opposed to saying, why are they not applying here? They should be asking, what are we doing to make sure they apply? Or what are we not doing that's making them not apply? So of course, that's a bigger conversation to be had in the future, but it's very important. And it's something that if it's not addressed, the problem is still going to keep perpetuating in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that there's good work being done by law firms at the moment to kind of remedy the issue, or do you think that that's still a long way to go?
I think there is work being done, but probably not. I always put it in perspective of like the work that we do regarding like inclusion of LGBT members of our firm. Like our firm does a lot of work within the LGBT space, and it's absolutely fantastic, and they should be so proud of the phenomenal work that they've achieved. But I always feel like if that much support can be garnered for one group of people that have always been deemed as being like outside of others, like I don't know why the same pattern couldn't be pushed. Maybe it's just because there's more people willing to rally behind LGBT issues within law firms, and there are, probably just because they just don't see that many Black people, and also probably because, like, I don't know, whereas like, you don't want to say it, but like maybe like associates know someone that is like homosexual, and then they feel really passionate about the topic, whereas they probably just don't know that many Black people, and it just never occurs to them. And that's just this reality of it. Most of them just don't know that many. Like I know for a fact, like when I'm the first like fully Black person that has worked in my firm, and my firm hires nearly 900 people. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just not going to think about it because it's not, no one has addressed the issue. So it's getting better. Like there's work to be done. There's definitely more work to be done on the issue.
But we feel really positive about it, as we already mentioned that McCann, Fitzgerald, Arthur Cox, and Matheson are rallying behind us. They are currently supporting the initiatives that we have organized this month. And that's something that we're really grateful for, because if we don't have these law firms coming together to help us, or coming together to show that they support the cause, then nothing is ever really going to happen. So even though there's still a lot of work to be done, of course, there's a lot that's already being done. And for that, we're really grateful, and we're very excited to see where it's going to go, because it's really crazy, because it's just really me and Sylvia who are really passionate about this. But we really believe in ourselves that, we are going to create something big out of this. And in the like manner, we really believe that, law firms really are going to, not wake up, but yeah, keep supporting us, keep moving forward, and realizing that you do need diversity in the workplace. And, I suppose the main thing is that to realize diversity, it's actually people who are around the word diversity. So realizing that, these are also people who want to create their livelihoods, who want to better their lives, and who want to feel wanted. And at the end of the day, it's just a basic human need. So yeah, we're very positive, very, very positive about it.
And do you think that that work needs to be done at an undergraduate level as well, or do you think that the problem is only in the corporate law firms and stuff like that, or does it start much longer before that?
It probably starts much longer before that. I would say it should start from secondary school, because I knew I wanted to go into law when I was in secondary school. But in my secondary school, there was never really anyone saying, yeah, go and study law. There was never that push or that extra support and motivation for me to go and study law. And I actually went to a really good secondary school, but I suppose they just never really thought that a lot of people would go and study law. So that's something that they never really pushed.
Yeah.
So I suppose if support starts in secondary school, and especially in the secondary schools in disadvantaged parts of the city, where they are probably told you're never going to go to college, you're never going to go to university, if it starts there, then you'll see those people in universities. Whereas if you're not told during secondary school that you can be a lawyer if you want to, if you believe in it, then you won't see those people in universities. And if you can't see them in universities, you're not going to see them in the Law Society of Ireland. And if you're not going to see them in the Law Society of Ireland, you're not going to see them in the offices. So it's just a big cycle. So, and I think it's a problem that starts from the bottom. And I think the root is yeah. Sylvia, what do you think?
I would agree with you. I'm very much of the opinion that you can't, like when I was in secondary school, like I didn't particularly want to be a lawyer. Like I was never, some people come into law and they're like, I've dreamed of this since I was a little girl. I'm like, no, like I decided last week to become a lawyer. I think it was one of those things where you can't be what you can't see. Like I wanted to become an investment banker because I had members of my family that were investment bankers and I thought they had a cool lifestyle, and that's pretty much how I got involved in the corporate life. And then I decided after a while that I didn't like banking, so I became a lawyer. Natural progression. Yeah. But like I always think like if I knew at a young age exactly what being a lawyer entailed and that I actually could be a lawyer, I would have probably shaved. I would already be qualified like 3 years by now. Like, it would save so much of my time if I knew exactly what being a lawyer entailed and if that kind of career would suit someone that looked like me. Like, I have to say this, for all the flaws, I know the finance sector always gets a bad rap, but it does way more in the work of diversity than the legal sector does. And I think there is a reason behind that regarding visas wise, how the accounting and the finance sector hire lateral hires rather than the legal sector really can't cross jurisdictions. Yeah. It's just more difficult. But I definitely always felt seen, and I always felt like I would go into a room and Irish people from Ireland, like homegrown Irish people, would be the minority in some of the rooms that I was in. Like, they were so diverse, people from literally everywhere. I've never I was at EY for a while, and like that place is like Little India. Like it's literally, it's insane. Like it's so diverse. Like it's so much different, such a different atmosphere. And I think that's why I was really hyper aware of the issue when I started in law, because I'd come from a background where everyone was from like super cool backgrounds, and we'd always have like International Day feasts and stuff in the office, and like you just don't see that in the law firms. And it's sad, but it's just the reality of like the fact of the matter is that lots of Black people do go to schools that are in disadvantaged areas where, I don't know, like they just aren't told from a young age that this career is suitable for them, that they are even able to go to university to study law. So yeah, probably secondary schools. But I also think like firms can do their piece. I think it's up to everyone to do their bit, and this is us doing our bit.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And is there any one issue in particular that you think needs immediate address, or is it just diversity in general in law firms, that the people that law firms are hiring are really diverse enough, or does it go deeper than that? If that makes sense.
For me, I think the bigger issue is making sure that it's as even a playing field as possible. The issue of diversity is like, reality of the matter is that people from particular backgrounds do have certain advantages in getting into top law firms. And like, we've even seen that recently with the rise of like people getting grinds and like coaching for interviews, and people getting like loads of extra help for doing the FE1s, and people's like tit for tat favors, swapping internships between parents and stuff like that kind of carry on. Like, no one wants to admit it, but like it happens all the time, and it's so pervasive in our sector. So just like leavening, like no one wants to raise up one group of people like supremely over the other, but just make sure that everyone is starting from the same baseline. And unfortunately, like the reality of our sector is just that is not happening at all, and to be ignorant of that is just kind of foolish.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much everything for me, unless you had anything else you wanted to mention.
Sylvia, do you have anything to mention? No, I think I've pretty much said what I would want people to hear. So I suppose just to conclude, the goal really is to, like Sylvia said, people are never really going to have an equal playing field. But the goal is then to recognize that, to accept that. Because if you don't accept it, if you keep living in ignorance, then the problem continues. Or if you keep living in ignorance, then one group of the community is going to keep suffering. And the thing is, at the end of the day, if you want the community as a whole to do very well, then you have to help everyone in the community, as opposed to only helping a certain sector of this community. So yeah, I suppose just to conclude, what I would really love is just for people to recognize that there is a problem. And, you know, I've had people say to me, well, anyone can study law if they want to, but that's not the case. And it's that kind of talking that shows that, you know, other people are really ignorant, and other people are in fact prejudiced if they think that anyone can study law, because that's absolutely not the case. And you know yourself, Jonathan, it's so expensive to become a solicitor. You know, by the time you graduate, by the time you do your FE1s, you know, maybe you want to do the courses, those are so expensive. Other people can afford to keep doing them over and over again. Other people can't even afford to do them at all. So, you know, it's recognizing those financial differences between people. And, you know, people also have different motivations to becoming a lawyer. You know, other people just want to become a lawyer. Other people are doing it because their parents, you know, are already solicitors. So, you know, that's the family business. So it's also realizing that, you know, for other people, it's more than a job. It's a dream, and they really do need all the help they can to achieve that dream or that goal. So yeah, I suppose just raising awareness that not everyone is equal.
Yeah.
And, you know, as much as we would love everyone to be accepted as equals, we are still so far behind as humans from that point. So just giving people that extra help when they need it. And so many people do need that help. And the reality of the matter is that it's more diverse students or more minority students who are going to need that help. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely the financial aspect. I don't think it's talked enough, like the financial cost of becoming a solicitor in Ireland. Like, I couldn't even imagine, like I didn't do any of those grind schools or anything, but I can imagine they're extremely expensive. I know for a fact that like when I I decided to become, I moved into law after my undergraduate. I took some time off and then did a 2-year conversion course in UC, then went into law. And I was working part-time at like that's, while studying and stuff, but like that puts a massive toll on students to be able to avoid, like, I don't know how people do it, like, because I can say, like, I'm not going to pretend I was like a straight A student or I was super involved in clubs and socks or any of that. So I don't know how people do societies, play sports, go to college, study, do their FE1s and hold down the jobs. I just don't know how they have the time management for that. I'm literally tired just thinking about like how busy some people's schedules are. And I don't think people realize how much of a financial burden it is to become a solicitor in this country. And unfortunately, like, I don't see that getting better anytime soon. It's just, I know that the Law Society does provide access grants and stuff, but like, it's still a massive hindrance. And I think students nowadays will probably have a better idea of this than me. I'm really showing my age, how long ago I did all my exams. But it's a massive financial toll. And if you really have to have like a deep sense of like inner confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to do this and I know I'm going to succeed. Unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that there are way more students applying for training contracts than there are training contracts that could ever be imagined. Like, there's, I think the year that I applied for my firm, they took 35 interns out of like close to like nearly 1,000 applications. It's a numbers game. Like, you're literally, it's like actual Hunger Games out there. It's so tough. And to know that some people, on top of already being able to afford the financial costs, are getting extra help on top of that is just so insanely unfair. That like, that's where we come in. Like, it's not, we're very much of the opinion that like so many resources are so accessible to so many people, and unfortunately the reality of like Black and ethnic minority students are always the ones that seem to be forgotten in the conversation. So yeah, it's definitely just to increase awareness of stuff that needs to be done in the future. But again, you just have to be hopeful and optimistic, and we're definitely playing the numbers game, that the more people that we can assist into helping get into training contracts and summer internships, the more people that become associates, and hopefully the more people become partners. And I think it's only when we have more Black people in senior ranking roles that they will have the wayside to be able to make actual, like, implement tangible change into the industry. Like, you'll need people with actual like voices. Like, you'll need Black people in positions of power that have the voice to actually implement serious change into the sector. And I think that's not going to happen until we literally just bulk up the numbers. Like, those are rookie numbers, we need to shoot them up. So